My name is Julie. I'm 32 years old. I work in an administrative position at a major conglomerate. My husband, Ken, is 35 years old, 3 years my senior. Up until last year, we lived with my in-laws, but after my mother-in-law passed away, my father-in-law followed her soon after, leaving Ken and me living alone in our house. We don't have any kids, and Ken says, let's just enjoy doing what we love and live freely, just the two of us. We're a couple who enjoy a carefree lifestyle. However, recently Ken has been coming home late from work. Hey, you've been coming home late recently, is work busy? After my parents passed away one after the other, I've been feeling down. Focusing on work helps distract me and makes things a bit easier. Ken said, looking distressed. It must be hard for him, grieving the loss of both parents. There are also times he comes home late because he went out drinking with colleagues, so I decided to leave him be if it helps distract him. But now, not only on weekdays, he often goes out alone on weekends too. And sometimes he comes home close to midnight or even after the date changes. Since his parents passed away, Ken's increased outings have made me increasingly suspicious. I once asked Ken about it. Don't you think you've been going out too much lately? Let's go out for dinner together sometimes. But Ken looked at me irritably and said, what's the big deal now? We're just the two of us at home anyway, let me have some time to breathe outside. I thought, what's that supposed to mean, as if he's reluctant to spend time with me? I became even more suspicious of Ken. One day, as the day for burning trash was approaching, I decided to collect the trash from Ken's room. I found a receipt facing up in the trash can. Normally, I wouldn't pay it any mind, but given Ken's recent behavior, I reached into the trash can to check the receipt. There were 2 receipts stacked together. What's this? One is a receipt for 2 movie tickets, and the other is a restaurant receipt. This restaurant, isn't it that fancy French place in front of the station? Why would he go there? Moreover, both receipts indicated service for 2, and judging by the time printed on them, it seemed he went to the restaurant after watching the movie. It was certain he went with another woman, I sensed. It definitely wasn't the behavior of going out with a same-sex friend. Since Ken and I hadn't gone out together in a long time, anger towards the woman I had yet to meet began to bubble up inside me. But this alone isn't enough evidence. Looks like I have no choice but to rely on a detective agency. I determined. I paid the investigation fee and requested an investigation into Ken's infidelity. A few days later, when I thought Ken would be coming home late at night, he returned in a panicked state just after noon. I carried a large amount of cardboard boxes. Welcome back. What's with those boxes? Out of the way! Ignoring my words, Ken rushed into the living room and started frantically packing my belongings into the boxes. Hey, what are you doing? Ken, slightly excited, was desperately packing my stuff. His behavior was disturbing. Hey! That's my stuff. Don't just pack it up without asking. As I grabbed his arm trying to stop him, Ken said with a laugh. I'm gonna live in this house with my lover. We're getting a divorce, get out. Lover? Divorce? Yeah, that's right, so I need to get your stuff out as soon as possible. I had no idea why Ken was in such a hurry. As I stood there dumbfounded, watching Ken, an unfamiliar woman entered the living room. Ken, wait. You're rushing too much. My husband hadn't locked the front door, so the woman walked in boldly from the front. Sorry. Got too excited. Who is this person? Oh, let me introduce her. This is Sarah, she works in sales at my office. You must be the wife? Nice to meet you, I'm Sarah. Your husband has always been so helpful at work. Sarah, tilting her head in a cutesy manner, was provoking me. What annoyed me the most was Ken introducing his affair partner to me with such casualness, as if she were just another colleague. I'm gonna live in this house with her, so you need to leave as soon as possible. Ken said again. You can't just spring this on me and expect me to agree just like that. I demanded an explanation. Then, scratching his temple with his finger and somewhat sheepishly, Ken began. I was just having tea at a cafe with her, and she told me she's pregnant. I was so happy, I got carried away and decided to divorce you and remarry her right away. Ken just left me and ran home, saying he's gonna kick his wife out. Talk about being in a hurry. Seriously, my bad. Ken replied. Ignoring me, Ken and Sarah shared a laugh, entering their own little world. To break into their world, I raised my voice louder than usual. Didn't we say we were going to enjoy our time together, even if it's just the two of us, no kids? Finally, Ken turned his face towards me from Sarah. But when it actually happened, I was super happy, you know? I realized, yeah, I really did want to be a father. Ken's words made my heart shrink. And then Sarah added insult to injury. Well, it's perfect timing since both parents passed away. He's been saying we could finally live together if he just kicked his wife out. What? Been saying? How long have you two been having an affair? I asked, bothered by Sarah's tone. Huh? Since last year, I guess. Since I started handling Ken's sales administration. So, you've been together even before his parents passed away? Yeah. Couldn't spend much time with him, weekdays or weekends, because his parents were at home. But now, with them gone, we don't have to worry about getting caught. So that's why there were more outings after the two of them passed away. I trembled with anger at the selfish behavior of this adulterous couple. Moreover, the reason he gave for working late and immersing himself in work due to grief was also a lie. I could hear the sound of my feelings for Ken cooling down deep inside me. I asked Ken calmly, "Are you really okay with getting divorced?" Pressing for an answer, Ken yelled back, "Stop nagging! I'm gonna live happily with Sarah and our upcoming baby." His expression was full of anger, a stark contrast to the happiness he showed earlier. Convinced he was in a winning position, I couldn't help but laugh. Haha, oh, this is hilarious. What's so funny? You're creepy. Ken looked at me with genuine disgust. As he laughed, unaware of an important detail, I decided to enlighten him. I don't mind the divorce, but this house and land were inherited from your late parents to me. So the ones who are leaving will be you guys, nuts. What? Oh, my apologies, the one who's leaving is you. I inadvertently let slip in rude language and quickly corrected myself. What do you mean it's inherited by you? Normally, it should be me, the actual son, right? Unfortunately, the house is in my name. Why the heck is that happening? Explain. Ken, with an incredulous look, demanded an explanation. And rightly so, since he was being told that his own family home wasn't his. The truth is, my in-laws gifted me this house through a living will while they were still alive. A living will? I've never heard a word about this. I figured as much. Your parents were worried about how carelessly you handle money, so they entrusted the house to me. With property taxes on the house, they probably felt it was too risky to leave it in your hands, given your lack of financial sense. Ken was notoriously extravagant with money. He had a passion for motorcycles, often splurging on parts and whatnot. There were times he'd spend his entire paycheck and, trying not to let me find out, would borrow money from his parents. Ken thought I was unaware of this, but I was well informed by my in-laws. You really weren't trusted by your own parents, were you? Otherwise, they wouldn't have made their son's wife the homeowner. Shut up! Damn it, what unnecessary thing did my folks do? Ken looked extremely foolish complaining about the deceased. Then, as if struck by a sudden idea, he brightened up and said, "That's right, there should be inheritance tax. There's no way you, with just a clerical job, could afford that." Is this guy an idiot? It's been gifted through a living will, so obviously, the payment's been settled. I thought, dumbfounded. I felt no obligation to enlighten him, but I was tempted to correct his assumption about my salary being low. Do you think they'd done nothing about inheritance tax? My in-laws gifted me just under the tax threshold each year, so I didn't have to pay anything extra. Seriously? Ken was taken aback, unaware of such a strategy. And about my salary, it's actually higher than yours. No way! You're doing just a clerical job! I was irked by the term just a clerical but chose to ignore it. My company pays well even for clerical roles, and the bonuses are significantly above average. It might be hard for you to imagine, working at a small company. Even a clerical work can earn this much. Ken clenched his fist and glared at me. How can you say that when you're always leaving work on time and seem so relaxed at home before me? I won't accept that you earn more than I do. There's nothing to admit, I've been the one earning more ever since we got married. No way. Ken, shocked to his core, looked like he was about to cry any moment. You thought I was making about the same as she since she's also in an administrative job, didn't you? I hit the nail on the head, and Ken twitched. Untrusted by your own parents, out-earned by your wife, you've got nothing going for you right now. As I said that, Ken, mixed with shame and frustration, snapped back in a voice filled with indignation. All this time, working hard in sales, you were looking down on me every month when you saw my paycheck. I've never thought that. We don't have kids, so we can live comfortably as is. I'm not that kind of woman. I made it clear to Ken that I wasn't such kind of woman. No, you definitely looked down on me. But it seemed Ken was no longer willing to listen to me. I felt sad about what our marriage had come to. Then, Ken finally blurted out. You've been conspiring with my folks behind my back, taking everything from me. I can't stand being in this house with a cunning woman like you. I'm divorcing you. I'll let you have this house because it makes me sick. Wait, that's not it. Huh? What do you mean? Sarah, who had been quiet until now, cut into the conversation. This house is fully paid off, so no rent. You said you'd make me a stay-at-home wife, didn't you? Making such promises, what a man. I can't say that anymore. Keep working like you always have. What? That's terrible. How can I keep working as usual when we're going to have a baby? I wanted to block my ears from their escalating argument. I wished they'd take this outside. I wanted to end this situation, so I let Ken in on another truth he didn't know. Don't worry, Sarah. You can always rely on your other boyfriend. Sarah was shocked by the sudden exposure of her having another lover. How do you know? Hey, what's this about another lover, Sarah? Were you cheating on me too? You're the same kind since you've been cheating on me. I thought in disgust. A low-grade comedy sketch unfolded before me, and my abs were on the brink of collapse. Unconcerned about me, the argument between the two escalated. Cheating? You're cheating too, with me, Ken. Who do you think you are? But you told me I was the only one for you. Were you lying to me? That's rich coming from you. Weren't you the one who lied about this house being owned, Ken? I honestly didn't know. It's not like I lied on purpose. Can't trust you. Ken seemed about to grab Sarah in anger. I didn't want any violence in this house, so I hurriedly stepped between them. Now, calm down, it's okay, Ken. Sarah's other boyfriend is married, too. You knew that too? Yes. When I suspected you of cheating, Ken, I hired a detective. Of course, I found out about Sarah right away. Then I had them dig a little deeper into Sarah. Turns out, you're not the only married man she's seeing. Sarah bit her lower lip and looked down. But it seems like her other boyfriend has no intention of leaving his wife. So, Ken, you're in luck. I nudged Ken's shoulder lightly. Are you out of your mind? Yes, I've been sane the whole time. My feelings for you cooled off completely after you started packing my things. As you wish, I'll grant you a divorce. You mentioned hiring a detective, right? Yes, I did. So, you knew I was cheating and kept quiet about it for a while? That seems to be the case, yes. At my words, Ken made an indescribable face. Why didn't you say anything? Did you think I was some clueless husband who wouldn't realize he's being cheated on? No, it's not like that. I was just waiting for you to bring up divorce first. It seemed like a good way to get a larger settlement. Damn. I knew you had a bad character. Realizing he had been played, Ken collapsed to his knees, placing his hands on the floor. Seeing Ken's dumbfounded state made me think. I wondered if Ken had realized the other possibility yet. Do I really have to spell it out for them? I thought to myself. I knelt down to match eye level with Ken. Hey, don't you have any doubts? About what? Ken, seemingly indifferent, asked as if wondering if there was still something more. Whether Sarah's baby is really yours. Ah. When I felt it finally dawned on him, Sarah quickly retorted. Hey, don't say things like that. But it's strange, isn't it? Even after being married for 6 years, we never had a child. Maybe the problem was on your end? Sarah scoffed at me with disdain. But over these 6 years, did she really think I never doubted my own body? I thought so too, so I went to the doctor by myself. But they found nothing wrong. Sarah's face gradually turned pale. Then Ken confronted her. Hey, tell me she's lying. Please say it's not true. Quiet, I don't know which it is either. You're being too irresponsible. This is the worst mess. Caught in the middle, I sighed and looked up at the ceiling. What's this? You were trying to make me raise a child that's not mine? I told you, it's not necessarily like that. The two of them continued their petty back and forth. I watched their exchange, turning my head from right to left. Can we wrap this up soon? Hearing my voice, both turned towards me simultaneously. Having witnessed their intense exchange, my neck was at its limit. I looked Sarah directly in the eyes. Sarah, I'm going to sue you for damages. You would do something so cruel to me while I'm pregnant? There's no room for sympathy for you once you've cheated. Don't forget the terrible thing you did by destroying someone's family. Unable to say anything, Sarah just swallowed hard and kept silent. Then, I turned to Ken, demanding alimony from him in the same manner. I'm sorry. I was out of my mind. Please reconsider the divorce. Being kicked out of the house, living with a child that might not even be yours and you're a fair partner, you wouldn't want that, right? That's why you wouldn't want a divorce. Ken desperately nodded while looking into my eyes. However, my feelings for Ken had already changed, not enough to reconsider. I stepped away from Ken and said in as cold a voice as I could muster. Please handle the rest through a lawyer. Faced with my firm stance, Ken suddenly changed his attitude. What's wrong with you, such a heartless woman? Don't you have any feelings for me anymore? After all the cheating and betrayal, and suddenly trying to move in with your mistress while packing my belongings in boxes and trying to kick me out, who's the heartless one here? Ken had no comeback to the truth I spoke. Ken and I glared at each other for about 10 seconds. Then, suddenly, Ken averted his gaze and spat out. You'll regret it later, being a divorced woman in her 30s. Just you wait and live your lonely days. That must have been the only comeback he could think of. Poor man, I thought. Unfortunately, as long as I work at my current job, I won't have financial troubles. Plus, I heard divorced women in their early 30s are quite popular. Even faced with my composure, Ken twisted his mouth and glared at me. Then, Ken left the house with Sarah. They finally left. I sighed deeply and sank into the sofa. Oh, I need to contact a lawyer. I started searching online for a law firm specializing in alimony issues. After the divorce was officially decided, I lived alone in this house for a while. 3 months flew by quickly, and I was living a peaceful life while working. What nice weather. I made myself a cup of tea and savored the relaxed morning of my day off. Then, the doorbell rang. Who could it be this early in the morning? Curious, I checked the monitor and saw Ken, whom I thought I had divorced. Hello? I couldn't hide my irritation at having my precious time off ruined, and I snapped coldly. The moment my voice came through the intercom, Ken lifted his eyes, which he had been keeping down. Jelly, please open up, I've got something I want to talk about. Ken seemed to be in a hurry for some reason. Whether he was too close to the camera or not, seeing Ken's face in extreme close-up on the monitor was unbearable. I have nothing I want to talk about with you. Oh, there was one thing. Hurry up and pay the alimony already. Ken had been behind on his alimony payments. Not that it really affected my living situation, but the thought that he might believe he could get away with not paying was somewhat irritating. That's what I wanted to talk about. I want to meet and discuss this face to face. Suddenly, Ken disappeared from the monitor. Panicked about what he might be up to, I hurriedly opened the door to check. There was Ken, prostrating himself on the front step. Hey, cut it out! Despite the public path nearby, Ken, oblivious to his surroundings, finally broke me down, and I led him inside the entrance. Prostrating yourself? What were you thinking? You're still as inconsiderate as ever. I'm sorry. Ken was much more subdued than the last time we met. So, what brings you here all of a sudden? I'm not reducing the alimony. Just hear me out. I had expected as much. Given the delay in alimony payments, I could guess the state of Ken's current living situation. After we divorced, I started looking for a place with Sarah. But, in New York, it's pretty expensive. That's true. Especially with a baby on the way. A one-bedroom apartment must be cramped, right? Besides, Ken was known to blow money on hobbies and luxuries, so he probably didn't have any savings. In the end, we rented an apartment, but living in such a small space with 2 people, it gets stressful. Sarah's salary isn't high, and with my income, we can't live like we used to and pay rent, let alone save money or afford alimony. Well, if you were spending on hobbies and dining at fancy hotels, of course, you'd have to cut back. Trim your food budget, and you'd be surprised what you can manage. Ashamed, Ken looked down as I spoke common sense. I realized that and told Sarah we needed to budget, but she blames you for our situation, saying it's up to me to fix it. Ken's words were a jumbled mess, trying to make his point without getting to it, causing me to cross my arms in irritation. So, what are you trying to say in the end? I'm trying to say, if we can be together again. Huh? I was taken aback by Ken's unexpected suggestion. What on earth was going on in his head? Get back together? You remarried Sarah, didn't you? That was last week. We got divorced. Already? Had this man experienced both marriage and divorce within 3 months? Sarah got fed up with the frugal lifestyle and left, leaving a divorce note. My parents, knowing the situation, said they'd pay the alimony to you. That's good to hear. I was surprised that Sarah intended to pay alimony, but relieved it seemed I'd be able to recover it successfully. And what about you? Ken placed his hands on his knees and hung his head. That's why I'm asking for a do-over. It's hard paying rent while also covering alimony. Do you even realize how selfish you're being after causing all this mess? Of course I do. You must be lonely living in this house all by yourself, right? I thought Ken might have reflected a bit, but realizing he still considered himself in a superior position by implying I was lonely showed his true colors. Is that how you ask for a favor? With unnecessary comments. It's amazing you managed to work in sales with that attitude. Look at you, getting all high and mighty just because someone's trying to be humble. That's your true nature. Ken grimaced as if he realized he'd made a mistake. He wanted to get back together and return to a better standard of living but didn't want to be in a position lower than mine. There's no way I could go back to being with someone as selfish as Ken. Sorry, but I'm not getting back together with you. Why not? You must be lonely living all by yourself. Wouldn't it be convenient for both of us if we got back together? It might be convenient for you. The reason we can't get back together is that I'm already seeing someone. Ken must not have expected me to have a new partner. He stood there, mouth agape. You've got a new boyfriend within 3 months of our divorce? What a player! I don't need to hear that from someone who married and divorced within 3 months. I've always thought so, but Ken seems to lack the ability to see himself objectively. There are way too many boomerang comments. What kind of guy are you even dealing with? A colleague from the same company. We're the same age, by the way. He's in sales, just like Ken, but he earns more than Ken and doesn't seem to waste money. Plus, he's mentally stable. Are you mocking my salary again? At least he's not someone whose money disappears as soon as he spends it. Plus, you know, when the company was making fun of my divorce, he was the one who approached me. He said he'd been interested in me for a while but gave up because I was married. Don't you think that makes him a different kind of person from you? Give me a break. If he's such a great guy, why doesn't he marry you right away? If he hasn't, maybe he's just playing around. Sigh. Are you serious? A sigh escaped due to Ken's ignorance. Plus, from today, he'll be living here. His stuff is arriving this afternoon. So, I won't be seeing you ever again. Too late, huh? Did he think there was a chance to get back together with me? I wanted to applaud his optimism. That's the situation, so please go back and don't come here anymore. You're gonna get tired of your new boyfriend too. It's just your personality. Don't come crying to me when that happens. Rest assured. Even if we break up, I'll never come crying to you. Don't regret it. With those words, Ken slammed the door so hard it nearly broke. Ken was confused whether he wanted to cling to me or insult me, just like the day we decided to divorce. At that time, I forgave Ken and did not divorce him, and I thought that there was no way I could have continued with such an unstable person. 2 months after Ken's attack, I persevered and remarried my colleague. Even after we got married, he remains calm and I feel the happiest I've ever been in my life. Due to his influence, we both went fishing on holidays and became more active. Divorcing Ken was the right thing to do. I felt like praising my decision. The alimony from Ken has remained unpaid. After hearing about Ken's current situation from the lawyer in charge, I think it will be a while before he can pay. After that, Ken moved to an apartment where the rent was even cheaper. He even sold the motorcycle he cherished. He's cutting down on daily meals to essentials like beans, saving almost all his salary for the alimony payments. But what's even worse, it seems Sarah, who was supposed to be divorced, has come back to Ken's place. Sarah went back to her parents' house, but apparently, they told her to get child support from Ken. Ken seems to be more worn out than ever, struggling with the triple burden of my alimony, his living expenses, and child support for Sarah. However, hearing about my ex-husband's situation didn't stir anything in my heart. I just listened silently to the reports from the lawyer. Ken proposed to reduce the alimony again, but I rejected it. No matter how long it takes, I intend to make him pay the full amount. I won't feel sorry for myself unless he faces the consequences of his actions. With that thought, I made tea for two and started to drink slowly. Ken's matter is completely out of my mind now. Savoring my current happiness, I looked outside.